Christ is risen, dear students. Indeed, he is risen. It is a joy to join you again today for our next live stream. I have to say again from Trumau with beautiful weather. We've just been extremely blessed these weeks with such beautiful weather. And I always think of you, dear students, and my colleagues in the faculty. What a pity that you cannot be here with this beautiful weather and the glory of the blossoming trees. It's really quite a beautiful sight. And so we also decided that today, as you see around me, we will have a different location for this live stream. And that's what I want to be doing on the next couple of weeks. I would like to do these live streams from different locations on campus in order that you at least have the possibility to feel a little bit present on campus as we have these weekly chats in different parts of the building and on different parts of the campus. So I hope you've had a good Easter time, a blessed Eastertide, which for many of us obviously has been very challenging because many, if not most of us, have not been able to participate physically in the Triduum, in the liturgies of the Triduum. But I'm sure that all of us have done what we could to really live through this Easter time with all our hearts in whatever way it was made possible to us through the circumstances. And some of you might have already seen it, that here at the ITI there was the beautiful opportunity we had because of the courtyard on campus, that the liturgies and also the Akatist and Vespers were celebrated right point in the middle of the courtyard, and those few people still on campus had the opportunity to participate from a little bit afar from the balconies of their apartments. This has been a very beautiful experience here on campus, and we are now also live streaming all these liturgies. So please make sure, if you haven't already done so, to check through our websites when is the next liturgy being live streamed. And in this way, we also hope that you can really continue to participate in a different way in the life at the ITI. Today, I wanted to share two specific reflections with you in light of the Easter Triduum that we have been celebrating. The first one is related to the Gospel of today. I'm always very struck during the Easter time of how clear Jesus is to us when it comes to the way in which we should spread the gospel around the world. He never says, well, just go to some places where people are nice, or some places where people will not be offended if we come with the gospel, or places where we might feel comfortable. No, none of it. What Jesus says in every instance, go to all corners of the world, go to all nations, go to all peoples, use every opportunity. There is no limit to it. There is no limit to the corner of the world. There is no people excluded from receiving the gospel. And I think it's always good that we be reminded of it, because we Christians, especially those of us who live in the comfortable secular societies of the West, we tend to have this tendency to say, oh, we can't go there, or we can't go there with the gospel because we might offend people and we might actually do this or that wrong. But that's not what Jesus said. Jesus says very clearly, go to all peoples and go to all nations, no exceptions. And I always find the Easter time a beautiful time to be reminded of that. And I was thinking of you today, our students of the ITI, because we have been speaking in those live streams the past couple of weeks about how each one of us, you as the students and we also, wherever we live, how we can use this crisis in which the world finds itself today, how we can use it to reach out with the gospel. And some of you have already sent me beautiful testimonies of what you have been doing in your parishes, what you have been doing in your communities. And I think the gospel of today reminds us of the need to continue doing that. And there is one aspect in this regard that I just wanted to highlight today. And that is that these past 4 weeks, 5 weeks, have at least shown me that we have enormous possibilities that we might not have used as much as we could. And the corona crisis has actually shown us that we can use these possibilities. And of course, I'm specifically referring to the possibilities of using social media, of using live streams, pre-recorded videos to reach more people. I've been communicating with a lot of friends of mine around the world. And what many people have been telling me is that they have been participating in masses and liturgies in places that they would have never thought of before. And I've also been hearing a lot of stories of people saying that they were never participating in Holy Mass. They never went to Holy Mass, or at least not regularly. But now they participate at least every week, or sometimes even every day, in a Mass that is being live streamed, whether it's the Mass of the Holy Father, of the local bishop, of the local parish priest, etc. And this has made me think a lot about you, the students of the ITI, because you're on the forefront of this. I think this is an opportunity, in light of the gospel of today, to go through every corner of the earth that we can be using even more as a result of this crisis. So I think here is a real wonderful new opportunity that should be extended, and you, with the education you have received, the formation you have received here at the ITI, and as you are back home, I think we can do a lot more with that. And this corona crisis has shown us that, and has given us also the tools for it and the experience for it. A second reflection has a relation to my first reflection and goes a bit more specific into the wider world and into some major questions. You might remember in previous sessions of these live streams, I have already mentioned that the world that we see now before us, and the world that we will find once this is all over, is and will be a very different world. And many things are still to change, and we're still in the middle of that, so many things we don't know how they're going to change. But that things are going to change, are already changing, and will change even more, and that the world never will be the same, that is, I think, clear to everybody. And I'm sure that everybody continues to reflect on that and to think on that and what needs to change. And I wanted to quote to you, I was again looking at one of my favorite books. Professor Wojtoszka will be very happy that I read this book, because it's by a great psychoanalyst and psychiatrist, Viktor Frankl. He wrote his famous book, Man's Search for Meaning, and I've recently been rereading it again, and I came across a passage that I think is perfectly suitable for the time in which we live today. And that is where Viktor Frankl says, those of you who do not know him, Viktor Frankl is a Jewish survivor of the Holocaust, and he went through the most terrible suffering in Auschwitz. He survived it, and he went on to be a great person of hope and inspiration for many people afterwards through his book, Man's Search for Meaning, and other talks and writings that came from him. And in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, there is one thing that is so important that he says, and that I think is very applicable to this situation. He says something about how we choose to respond to situation. He says, they may have been few in number, but they offer sufficient proof that everything can be taken from a man but one thing. The last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. Such a powerful passage, such a powerful sentence. Anything can be taken from us, and a lot is taken from many during these days. Security, jobs, all sorts of things that we are used to. And it's of course nothing compared to the suffering that, for example, our Jewish brethren went through in the Holocaust, or the persecuted Christians are going through in many countries in the world today. You always hear me talk about that. But still, there's a lesson in it for all of us when things are taken away from us, when we suffer. And that is, we can choose our attitude. He says to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. That capability can never be taken away from us. And he says that with his experience in the concentration camps in Auschwitz. He lived through hell, so he knows what he is talking about. So I wanted to share this thought with you, because we can choose, and nobody can take that away from us. We, each of us individually, can choose our way as a response to this crisis. We can choose how we are responding, each of us individually, to this crisis. And that is the great hope, the great power of the human person. The great power of the human mind is that we are able, also through our faith, to choose how we're going to respond to this situation. So what I wanted to propose to you today, following up on our earlier conversations, is to ask yourself the question, very concretely, how am I responding to this crisis? And I have a little challenge for you there. Because the world, our societies, need to ask themselves that question as well. How are we going to respond to this crisis in the sense of how are we going to change? What are we going to change? What things need to be different? What bad habits do we need to drop? Etc., etc. But that starts with the question, obviously, we ask ourselves first. And only then can we move on to the next level of society. We cannot just point to the political leaders or the church leaders to tell them they have to do things differently. Obviously, we have to start with ourselves. And I am reflecting on this question every single day. So, my challenge for you is that you think about that you reflect on that. What do I need to change in my life? What does then, as a next step, society need to do? What in my country or in my community or in my parish needs to change as a result of this crisis so that we can come strengthened out of this crisis? And here comes the twist. I would like to ask you specifically, as students of the ITI, to also, in that line of question, ask yourself the question, and what would be good to change at the ITI in order that it, as a Catholic institution of higher learning, of formation, of forming leaders for church and society, can fulfill its mission even better for even more people around the world. And I would like to invite you to participate in this process of deliberation and to send me your ideas, your thoughts on that specific point. How can we as an ITI reorient our mission so that we as an institution, a Catholic institution of learning, that indeed is forming leaders for church and society, that you are and will be, what can we adapt? What can we change? What can we improve to respond in the best way possible to this global crisis and to actually grow out of it strengthened and to grow out of it being better able to do our mission, being able to reach more people around the world so that they can be prepared to take responsibility. That's the challenge I would like to give you today and ask you to reflect about, to pray on, and to, if you want, just drop me an email, send me your thoughts. I would be very grateful for that, and that will all be taken into consideration in the process that we are going through. This brings me to some practical announcements to make for you. First of all, something to appease your minds. One thing the ITI is not going to be is a place where we only do online teaching. So don't worry, the ITI has as its core mission to offer a place where there is prayer, study and community on our beautiful campus, and that will continue and be strengthened and grow. So anybody who is not impeded from coming back to campus when the new academic year starts, please obviously come back. The ITI will not change in that regard. But as I said, there are ways in which we can extend what we have to offer and reach more people, and there I've invited you to participate in the process of deliberation. Furthermore, there are two important things that I'm sure you're eager to know about. First, about graduation. So we, as I already told you 2 weeks ago, we have started planning for graduation. The first decision that we have taken is to reinforce our earlier decision that graduation will take place on June the 6th. However, due to the fact that large gatherings are still not allowed until the end of June, as the Austrian government had said, this will be an entirely live-streamed affair, which means that we will have an official graduation ceremony online with a Holy Mass that will be live-streamed, and then a ceremony in the Riley Hall that will be live-streamed, and where obviously the Dean, myself, Father Uri, and 2 other people will be present to conduct the ceremony. We are currently figuring out the most challenging point of that, and that is how the profession of faith is going to be validly spoken aloud by the graduating students. But we'll find a solution for that. So there will be an official graduation ceremony that you can participate in online on the 6th of June, and you will then be immediately afterwards sent your official diplomas. We will then, at some point in the next academic year, organize a small, modest event where those who have graduated can come together if they wish on campus, and we have a small celebration to at least make up for the impossibility in June of being physically together during the graduation ceremony. But once again, the official graduation ceremony is taking place on June the 6th. We are in the next couple of days actually drafting the program for that and setting up the specifics, and we will obviously send that to you as soon as possible. A second important decision that was made during our academic council meeting today, and more information will also follow on that in writing next week, is that we will start our academic year 2020-2021 on October 1st, so later. This gives us the possibility to respond to possible further complications due to the corona crisis, and gives us a little bit more of breathing space, especially you also students, to be able to come back to Trumau. And gives us also the opportunity for those students that would like to start studying at the ITI next year, that are now applying, a little bit more time to decide on the basis of international developments. So our new academic year will start on October the 1st, will however end around the same time in the year 2021. So graduation will be around the same time again as this year. We are currently working on the academic calendar. As soon as it is finished, we will obviously send it to you. Those are the 2 most important announcements to make to you as to the academic life and as to graduation. I would like to, before opening up for questions again, I would like to use this opportunity to express my public gratitude to a number of my colleagues who behind the scenes have been working very hard to make all this possible, to make the teaching online possible, to make these live stream sessions possible, to make those beautiful divine liturgies and daily masses and Akatist hymns and vespers possible, There's been a lot of work going into that. So I would ask for you a little online applause for Gedas, who is here sitting next to me filming this, for Father Uri, for Father Jurko, for Uri Mistina, for Sebastian, people who have been working quietly behind the scenes to make sure that all things run as smoothly as possible. I've been really impressed to see how hard the work has been. We've been all working here as a team very hard, but with the support of these dear colleagues, much of what you have been seeing going on would not be possible. Obviously, also very much our faculty who have been doing everything in their power to shift to online classes, which certainly has been a challenge for many, but I can tell you from what I hear from the faculty is that the experience with it has been very positive. So thank you, a very special thank you to all who have been working so hard behind the scenes, but especially those colleagues that I have mentioned to you. I'm now going to open up for questions and comments that we will be having now. Let me just see. There we go. So I will again give you a few moments to send in any of your questions. And as I said once again, I really invite you to send me your ideas as to my second point of my reflection. What can the ITI actually do to respond well to the corona crisis, and what will be its aftermath? When does the spring 2020 semester end? June 8 or June 20 something? Yes, very likely around June 8. So it's most likely the earlier date, as I said, very similar to the date this year. The next question. Very grateful for the way the folk here on campus have carried on. Quite a blessing. Yes, I also have to add to that. The few people who had to remain on campus for various reasons have been very disciplined in sticking to all the official rules of distance and hygiene, and making sure that the ITI remains in this regards also a safe place. So absolutely thank you for all who have been making such a big effort there. Will the late start of the fall affect the length of the Christmas break, or will the classes be more intense but stay within the same dates? We are currently, as I said, we are currently looking into exactly the way how we're going to plan the next academic year as to the weeks. There will be certainly some changes in the length and the duration and the spread of the breaks. So I cannot say more about it because we are, as we speak, designing the calendar, but there, yes, will be changes in length and also spread of the breaks. So to answer your question very concretely, exactly the same dates as you have been used to the past years. There I can already say no, they will not be exactly the same dates. There will be some changes there. Good. I see at this point no more questions, which is fine, because as we go along and have more of those weekly live streams, probably your questions will be less. That is no problem. I just want to keep the channels of communication open for you, the channels of direct communication, that you always have these possibilities to ask questions. In a final remark, I would like to say this. I am doing these live streams because I find it important in this time of crisis to be in touch with you as students. I would therefore also like to invite you to let me know if there's a specific theme you would like me to speak about during a next live stream. I always try to simply give you some reflections which might be useful for you or might not be useful for you. That is not a problem. But I would be very grateful that if you think there's a specific theme that you think would be useful to discuss in a live stream, then please feel free to contact me, to send me an email, and to ask me if that's a theme I could speak about. That being said, I thank you very much for your attention. I wish you many blessings in this Easter octave, and I pray that all of you are well and that we may continue this semester in this new form in a joyful manner, and that this will lead then finally and hopefully to us reuniting here on campus in the new academic year. I look forward to speaking to you next week. It's still a surprise from what location on campus that will be. In the meantime, I wish you wisdom and joy in your further studies. Thank you very much for listening and for watching.